Hey, shalom, shalom. Hayawam tawab la'atham, which is good day unto you all. I knock na waha aibar inshallah with the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian Haitians, and Israelite foreigners. Nachamatham kaya hamlakwath hashamayim kwarab, repaying ye for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, I'm going to say Kah Halayim La Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rocha HaKodash. While double honest, that was an apostles of great millstone that torches truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, out there pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
So essentially, like it's entitled in the title, it says Reconstruction and the 13th Amendment. All right, so we essentially just want to get some points, just touching on the 13th Amendment, because essentially, when you summarize it, it was just Esau's way of keeping Jake enslaved. So I'm gonna get the definition. I'm gonna read some excerpts out of these books that I got right here. But it says the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery and involuntary servitude. I'm reading off of the Google AI overview.
Okay, Con.
Kind of says the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, which that's what they say that it abolished. You see, but Esau essentially had to find some type of way to keep Jake enslaved. Because what happened was but between the years of 1860 and 1865, you had the Civil War. So after the war, it was like, well, hold on. Esau felt like he was like, hold on, there's too many, Jake walking around. So he like, yeah, like they had to essentially make it a way to essentially keep Jake in that servitude type state. That's where they got the idea of sharecropping and things of that nature. Because even with sharecropping, when Jake would be freed from these different plantations, Jake would go into sharecropping, and essentially they would still get the same treatment, as if they were still, in chattel slavery. But I'm gonna continue on. It says abolish slavery and involuntary servitude in the United States with the exception of punishment for a crime. It was passed by Congress on January 31st, 1865, and ratified on December 6th, 1865, freeing 4 million slaves. It says the 18th Amendment states neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as for punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the U.S. or any place subject to their jurisdiction. It says Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. The 13th Amendment has been interpreted to protect the right of so-called black children to attend private schools and to prohibit racial discrimination in private employment. You see, so in layman's terms, which layman's means pretty much to be clearly said, pretty much it says neither in slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for crime. So pretty much what it's stating is that, and this is what they teach, like in Esau's law enforcement type of sectors. If someone is not enslaved but incarcerated, they don't have any type of rights. So Esau treat that as free labor, and that's why a lot of people, like, you got guys that sold out like Michael Jordan. Essentially they capitalized off of that, because it's when you talk about the prisons and the like the jail sector, that's big business for Esau. Because that's where essentially the term around about the time where all this came out, that was a term of 40 acres and a mule. It was a lot of money that Esau was supposed to give to Jakes in those days. And I'm actually get some points out of this book right here real fast. This is the Valley of the Dry Bones, the conditions that face so-called black people in America. And notice that it said the conditions that face. It don't say what Jake in America faces. No, these things are essentially, it's been strategically set that way. They had books like Willie Lynch and the Making of a Slave, roughly paraphrasing. But I'm gonna get this real fast. It says, which I'm gonna get this and we'll get some precepts. But it says in 1862, it says during the Civil War, the federal government issued the Confiscation Act. This act empowered the president to seize plantations of the rebels, and it was generally understood that the enormous estates would be divided up and distributed to poor whites and ex-slaves. Because that land, so to speak, was made for Jake. That's where that term 40 acres and a mule came from. This is the time period of the Reconstruction of the 13th Amendment. I'm gonna skip down though. It says moreover, 400 million acres of land were confiscated from the landowners after the Russian Revolution and handed to the people. So like it says, Congressman Stevens unsuccessfully tried to get Congress to adopt a land distribution policy. The distribution of land taken from the big landowners was not an unusual thing during the French Revolution. The new government seized the land and distributed it to the common people. Moreover, 400 million acres of land were confiscated from the landowners after the Russian Revolution and handed to the people. You see, so if Jake, had those lands, from that time, a lot of Jake, it wouldn't be like a homeless crisis, But if we can get a quick scripture real fast,
Con.
um, I'm gonna get two. The scriptures say that essentially, the people are served of the field, you know. So everybody's supposed to essentially profit from the earth, you see. But how Esau has it, I'm gonna get this real fast. So this is Ecclesiastes, Quahalath chapter 5, verse 9. It says, moreover, I'm sorry, verse 8. It says, if thou seest oppression of the poor and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter, for he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. You see, so that's essentially what's going on in Esau's world, in American Babylon the Great, and specifically, and during that time, you see, because chattel slavery was over with, you see, but Esau sought to essentially further the affliction, you see, which the scriptures say that, which we'll get. I don't want to Zah, but essentially they only consult to cast Jake down from his excellency, you see, because at that point, it would have been, it said poor whites and ex-slaves, you see, so Jake would have been on pretty much on the same level as, the Joe six pack drinking, Edomites. So they had to do something to keep Jake in order, so to speak. But continuing on, this verse 9, it says, moreover, the prophet of the earth is for all. The king himself is served by the field. And I'm going to get this in the NLT. It says, even the king milks the land for his profit, you see. So that can be applied to, essentially, the resources and stuff like that, but then also the land itself, Esau say, oh, it's a homeless crisis, you see, but essentially that can be if he was a righteous ruler, pursuant to Bonsrat, the 10th chapter, you know, um, essentially the city will be inhabited by prudence, roughly paraphrasing. It shows you that he's not that wise ruler. He's that unwise ruler. And at the same time, essentially all these problems that he has, all right, would be quelled, if he used wisdom, But if we can get another one too, could we get Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5, Baba Kusha?
Con. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5. It reads, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people.
Right. So it says, also because he transgresseth by wine, essentially going into his philosophies. He's proud. It says, neither keep it at home, you see, because in present day, again, starting back to this time, the time of the Reconstruction and the 13th Amendment, if Jake had these, lands and stuff passed down, essentially it would, that would stop or cease that problem of homelessness, so to speak, but in present day, it says, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is his death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. You see, so essentially, right now, Esau, he has things, just like in time of the Civil War, he had things going on his forefront, you see, but he's focusing on other issues, going into the part where it says neither keep it at home, you see, because again, all of that will be essentially solved, had he, use righteousness. But we understand that, that's not how the story is written. The scriptures say, roughly paraphrasing, it says, show favor to the wicked, yet he would not learn righteousness, roughly paraphrasing. But I'm keep going in this though. It says, the federal government never transferred a large amount of lands to the millions of freed slaves in the South. Why? It says there is an extremely important reason for this, which we will explore shortly. It says after the Civil War, General Sherman gave large tracts of land to the blacks on the Sea Islands off the coast of South Carolina, which this book, or that's pretty much going into the what they call the Gullah, the Gullah. I believe it was mixtures of like of Judah. I believe Reuben might have been in that too, but you had like the Gullah and the Geechee. They gave him pretty much the seacoast and stuff like that. Again, that was around about the time of Reconstruction and the 13th Amendment. You know, just giving a little backstory. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna skip down. Though. It says it says, why, if whites could not tolerate blacks in their midst, they could have sent the blacks to the icebox of Alaska, yet they failed to do this. Why Frederick Douglass proposed to the government to set aside 1 million to the so that the freemen could buy land at easy terms. They failed to do this while the government gave 23 million acres of land to the railroad. So that essentially that land that they used when they talked about when they essentially because during that time too, you had they were spreading the railroad. You see, a lot of that land was supposed to be given to Jake. You see, but again, going into the point of 40 acres and a mule, Esau failed to do that. But continuing on, let's get I'm gonna get this too.
And if I may add, to
Uh
your point, um, you know, all those promises that Esau kept try to keep or promise to Jake, like the brother mentioned, they were all pretty much lies. Like even with when you look at Gad, how he dealt with Gad. He'll move him to a certain location, and after that, he'll move him again because he wanted that land. So every time he'd be breaking treaties and,
hmm
and, and constantly pushing, and encroaching on their boundaries. Like I think it was just like a couple years ago, you had a pipeline that was supposed to go across some some Gadite lands, and they had a protest, to try to stop that from going through. But the point being is that Esau continuously does this. He'll take away, like the scripture says, the violent take it by force, right?
hmm
And that's what he's always done.
Scriptures say they covet fields, they take them by violence.
Right.
But continuing on, I'm gonna get this excerpt out of here. It says amazing facts. And this book says the Gullah are people blessed by the Most High. So it's just a couple facts that they got in this book, but I'm gonna get an excerpt from it. It says from the years 1861 to 1870, Senator John C. Calhoun issued a warning that South Carolina would become Africanized, so-called Africanized. Aided to this, it says African king, which eat the meat, spit out the bones. But it says African King Menelik gave several $1 million in gold to the United States to be given to ex-slaves. It says Senator Thaddeus made the reparational promise to give each Negro 40 acres and a mule, which is currently equal to more than 300,000. The government stole that gold. Excuse me. The government stole the gold and put it in Fort Knox and has never given the gold or profit from the interest to so-called African Americans. But pretty much the point that I wanted to get from that was the Senator Thaddeus Stevens. He had uh, came out with the declaration of 40 acres and a mule. Jake never got that. And again, that was in the time of the Reconstruction. I want to get this because they understood that would give Jake a leg up. This is
Hmm.
Daharyam, Psalm chapter 62 and verse 4. It says, "They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly." You see, so pretty much just going into that, what makes us excellent is being in this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Being in this truth. You see, but just applying it to they didn't want Jake being on the same level as Esau. They wanted to essentially push forth the ideology of Jake. Hey, you still a slave, which we still in servitude. I'm gonna get that too.
Right.
This is uh this is Baruch chapter 3 and verse 8. It says, "Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments, according to all the iniquities of our fathers which departed from the Lord our power." You see, so we're still subject to payments, and a that was essentially, I guess, what you would call it is one of Esau's stepping stones to get to the point that we are in today. Because from slavery to the 18th Amendment, or not the 18th Amendment, the 13th Amendment, essentially those that are incarcerated, all right, they don't treat them as if they have any type of rights. That's why they do
Hmm.
some of the same detestable acts, and some of the systems,
Hmm.
to where it's like they don't give them any rights. All right. Also, they do like strip searches and things of that nature. They do some of the same things. It's just put in modern day.
Hmm. Pretty much trying to like almost like dehumanize them in a sense.
Right? Because back a couple hundred years ago, they had it to where Jake was considered. I'm gonna actually look it up real fast, but I think it was something called 3/5 of a man.
Right. I got this for you, real quick, if I may.
Hmm.
'Cause you mentioned Psalm 62:4, but it says, "Cast him down from his excellency." It says this is from the AI overview. It
Hmm.
says is a phrase from the Bible, specifically Psalm 62:4, which means to plot or conspire to bring someone down from their position of power or high status.
Hmm.
And that's essentially like you mentioned how Esau doesn't want us to reach a high status in his society, right? Because he learned from the previous society that he had, which is Rome, right?
Hmm.
He understood that if they allowed Jake to venture into being or at least trying to achieve a higher status without putting them roadblocks, that eventually Jake would take over his kingdom,
Right? Because they
like it
understand
happened
that.
before.
My bad.
So, like, you got it, bro.
Kind of, they understand that essentially. In doing so, Jake would just like back in Egypt. They started to kill off the sons. You
Right,
know, which they
right.
pretty much doing that today because this is present day Egypt by way of like Planned Parenthood and stuff like that. But it says right here, it says to plot. It says which means to plot or conspire to bring someone down from their position of power because that gave Jake some type of position of power back in those days because even though some Jakes succumbed to like the 13th Amendment, it still gave Esau problems because you had Reuben, which looked like Judah. You
Hmm.
had Reuben still walking around as free, and that they had to do that brought forth the Seminole Wars. You know,
Right.
Esau didn't like the fact that Reuben was walking around and essentially aiding Judah. And essentially because back then Jake was still going off, but we still understood that we was of the same people. Jake back in
Hmm.
those times too. They still spoke a form of broken Hebrew. When you look at the so-called Cherokee. All right, a lot of the words and phrases go back to Hebrew. All right, if you look at the Tainos, all right,
Hmm.
which that means Tawab Aim. That's broken Hebrew for good people. When you look at Reuben, all right, the Creek, the Miccosukee, all right, and the
Hmm.
different tribes of Reuben, all right, and also like and words like in Mexico, with Issachar down there, so
Hmm.
pretty much we still have held fast to some of the customs and some of the words and stuff that we use and things of that nature. But that was a problem for Esau. That's why again we seen the Reconstruction era, we seen the 13th Amendment, we seen
Hmm.
the Seminole Wars, the so-called Seminole Wars. You know,
Right. Right.
but we can read something in here.
Con. Didn't you say you were gonna get the 3/5 of a man?
Oh yeah, yeah, Salat, my bad. Right here it says 3/5 of a man. It says the meaning of the 3/5 compromise. It says 3/5 of a man. It says 3/5 compromise was a compromise reached during the 1787 Constitutional Convention. It determined that three out of every five slaves were counted when determining a state's total population for legislative representation and taxation. So pretty much, it was essentially saying that again, for every three out of five, that was counted as that wasn't even a full man.
Hmm.
It says, excuse me. It says the 3/5 compromise. It says solution. The 3/5 compromise was a compromise reached during the 1787 Constitutional Convention that allowed Southern states to count enslaved people as 3/5 of a person for the purposes of representation and taxation. This compromise gave Southern states more power in Congress and reinforced the institution of slavery. So pretty much it was pushing forth Esau's enterprise, but again, they wasn't even treating Jake as a man. You see, so fast forward in the time of 1860, from 1860, because the Reconstruction era that was a process. I believe it went from 1861 to the 1900s or to the year 1900. So when you look at that, it was just again a means of Psalm 62 and 4. a furthering of Jake's servitude. You know.
Mm-hmm. May I get one for you real quick?
Hmm.
This is Psalm 94 and verse 20. This is in the NLT. It says, "Can unjust leaders claim that the Most High is on their side? Leaders whose decrees permit injustice." Right. And as we're going into, all these laws that Esau has put in legislation, they're all means for him to have a leg up on Jake, for them to be able to commit injustice, hold somebody in a prison cell, for however long, his justice system feels like, right? And even with his justice system is all corrupt. The judges, all that is all corrupt. They can set somebody up if they want to. They can just dismiss court cases if they want to, right? They can do
Hmm.
whatever they want, right? But essentially, as we're going into, pretty much all this whole system is corrupt and designed to oppress Jake at the end of the day, and that's
Right.
where those unjustice decrees come in, or unrighteous decrees.
'Cause when you look at it, like Esau sets these different laws, and it shows how this is a hypocritical nation. But Esau sets these laws, but um, in his society, the only people that are subject to those laws is going to be Jake. Because if Esau, does something that is off according to his rule book, he'll just, give a slap on the wrist or just completely ignore it, And, we seeing that, in these exposures of these, celebrities, so-called celebrities, to where
Hmm.
Esau's doing this in the behind the scenes, but in order to take the pressure off of him, he pretty much just throw Jake out there, like we seen that, with Sean Combs,
Hmm.
and just different so-called celebrities.
Right. Yes, it says in the scriptures, his um he is not he's not in trouble as other men.
Mm-hmm.
So
Let's get that.
con. Salaka. You know what verse that is?
Psalm 73.
Con.
You start at like verse 3.
Con.
We'll go
This
down
is
to 9.
Con. This is Psalm 73 and verse 3. It says, "For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked."
Right, and it said prosperity of the wicked, you see, because pursuant to Ecclesiastes chapter 8, all right, talks about how essentially, I'm gonna get it real fast and we'll go back to that. But this is Ecclesiastes Quahalath chapter 8, and we'll get verse 11, and it says, "Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore, the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil." See that so that goes into that prosperity. You see, because Esau just building up a tab. You see, and Jacob see this, and they're subscribed to that, and essentially they were not knowing that essentially Esau is just building up a tab. They see it as prosperity, but it's not really truthfully prosperity because we understand that the Lord requires that which is past.
Right. Hey, it's almost like, it's almost like you get you pretty much you get a credit card, right? With
Hmm.
like unlimited, unlimited amount of money. You're over here buying shit, eating, you living good, you got yourself a house. Hey, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have to pay that bill.
Hmm.
That's essentially what Esau got, man.
Right.
But continuing on, Psalm 73 and 4, "For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm."
Right, that strength is firm. Essentially, this devil is rooted, pursuant to Jeremiah, the 12th chapter. All right, Job 9 and 24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Your hands are your power. So they got, power synonymous with strength. So they're
Hmm.
essentially rooted, they're firm, they essentially they got the fatness of the earth, you know.
Hmm. It says, "They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men."
Right, they're not in trouble as other men, now that they play like other men, because essentially Jake gotta essentially worry about, if Jake is driving down the street, you pull up to a stoplight, you see a cop, woo, woo, like Jake, like, oh shit, like
Right.
heart start beating all fast and shit. Esau don't he has, I can't remember what they call it, but it's called I can't, what I'm talking about, bros? I think it's called like white indemnity or something like that, but pretty white privilege or something like
Mm.
that.
Hmm.
Pretty much they got so-called white privilege, to where You don't have to worry about stuff like that. They inherit things. Their strength is firm.
Right.
Going back up to verse 4, their strength is firm. They inherit money. That they inherit lands. All right. They pretty much got the power of the earth.
Mm-hmm. Con. Verse 6 it says, therefore pride compasses them about as a chain, violence covers them as a garment.
Right. That's what they clothe themselves with. They clothe themselves in violence. They covet fields. They take them by violence. All right. They was given that great sword. You know.
Mm-hmm.
In which
Right.
that sword is representative of a killing instrument. You see, if you look at right now, if you use the Google, who makes the most weapons? All right, you're gonna see U.S. up there. You're gonna see Russia. You're gonna see
Mm-hmm.
France. You're gonna see a whole bunch of Edomite countries. You'll see a couple sprinkles of different other nations, but top 10 is gonna probably be about 7 to 8 nations that just straight Edomites.
Mm-hmm. Con. And one thing I wanted to add too, where it says, therefore pride compasses them about as a chain. It all goes back to verse 5, right? They're not in trouble as other men, so they've been, to them it seems like they've been allowed to get away with all these things. That's the reason
Mm-hmm.
why they come up with this manifest destiny. Uh, what's the other one? Um, but pretty much, all them things that they like to say about, the Most High is on their side. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And that nothing ever bad is going to happen to America. That's that pride. You know, and this is
Just line
violence
back.
with them as a garment. Oh, Salaki, you gonna say something?
You was about to use continuing on.
I was gonna say something else, but you go ahead and
You go.
say your
No,
point.
you go ahead, bro.
Khan, I was just saying the point where it says violence covered them as a garment. Hey, Esau is always taking everything by force. Everything he's got, he's attained through violence. You know, and the fact that we calling him out, hey, just shows that isn't his pretty much his end is near. His end is near. Is pretty much what my point is getting. Right now that the truth is out, everything's being exposed. He's at his end, but he's still gonna do what he does because he's used to attaining the world in that fashion. Everything he got was through those means, so he's gonna continue. What you got it, bro? What you gonna say?
Khan, did you get the word for pride, Baba Kusha?
Khan.
I just want to add to your point.
This is the word for pride. It says um gawa,
Khan, did you get the root word?
the root word. Okay, Khan.
It
What's
says
that?
ga'a.
Ga'a.
Yep.
Khan.
And you scroll down. It says to rise up, to grow up, be exalted and triumph. It says to be lifted up. He's lifted up in his mind. You know, when
Hmm.
you break that word down, it's a ga. The ga goes into a camel, but it also goes into a foot. Your a camel, both a camel and a foot, they carry. You see, when you look at that's strength. Much strength or much increases by the strength of an ox. Roughly paraphrasing. But when you put the two together, it means carrying strength. So that's why the word ga'a and ga'awa go into pride. You see, so essentially Esau is in his mind, he's carrying a false sense of strength. You know,
Hmm.
Essentially it's a false sense of strength because you mentioned the term of credit. He got that purchasing power. Because he has the ideology of using credit. You see, but not knowing that at the end of the night, what I'm saying, when that credit card bill gonna be due.
Hmm.
So it's gonna be due, and he's gonna have to pay that tab. That's why it's a false sense of security. And then going back up to verse 3, I believe it was, it said prosperity. It's not really prosperity. It's not truthful prosperity.
Hmm. Khan. Going back, Psalm 7 and verse 7, it says, their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than their heart could wish.
Right. Esau can get anything that he wants. He has so much. He got the fatness of the earth. He has so much to where essentially he can be wasteful. You know.
Right, right. You know, the, shit, the fact that they're able to print the money just shows, man, that, hey, that, like Henry Kissinger said something. He said, whoever controls the money controls the world. Right. And that's essentially what they got. They have the whole world in their hands. Job 9:26. Right. I mean, Job 9 and
24.
24. Salakia. But hey, just goes to show you, man, they have more than the heart could wish. So what more does this man want? But as we see, as we read earlier, their hearts cannot be satisfied,
Hmm.
right? Their desire goes beyond, like they want to be the most high, right? But continuing on, verse 8, they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily.
It says they are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. A lot of times they be like, "Oh, with slavery, forget about it. It's in the past. But 9/11, like they say, never forget. That's speaking loftily. Like because with they shit, it's a problem. But with Jake, it's like, oh, forget about it. That's speaking loftily. Also with Jake, we bring up, or Jake will bring up 40 acres and a mule, and
Mm,
he saw solid on that matter.
mhm,
He's solid on it. He never comes in with his end of the bargain, or he'll say something as this verse is going into loftily. When he speaks highly of it, in a proud type of way. Like when someone is lofty or they're haughty, essentially they're speaking in a disdainful way, as if they don't care about your plight, as if he don't care about Jake's plight.
mhm. And just to add to your point, like you mentioned, forgive and forget, right? That's what Esau says. Well, why didn't Esau forgive and forget, Jacob whenever, he so-called got supplanted,
Right.
you know? So hey, it's just like you mentioned, man. It's just them speaking. What was that word you mentioned? I forgot what that word.
Loftily and haughty.
Yeah, yeah,
Almost as if, well, no, I don't want to say almost. It like they don't, care about the plight of Jake. It's
right,
it's in a way that's disdainful and disrespectful. It's like, you the one that caused this. Now you got to fix it. He runs away from accountability. He doesn't.
right.
He lacks integrity, accountability, and also in doing so, he speaks very pridefully.
Con. Verse 9 it says, they set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh throughout the earth.
Right. They set their mouth against the heavens. Jeremiah, the 12th chapter. Thou art near in their mouth, but far from their reins.
Hmm.
Because essentially they don't uphold what's in the scriptures, but it said thou art near in their mouth because they continually blaspheme the Lord. That's why it says they set their mouth against the heavens. First and foremost the Lord, Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. You see, but then also against us, because they call themselves the people. And it
Hmm.
says, and their tongue walking through the earth, just like we're going through right now, Reconstruction, the 13th Amendment. Their tongue walking through the earth is just another form of essentially them, decreeing legislations, warning to them that decree unrighteous decrees. That's just a unrighteous decree. Their tongue walking through the earth is, essentially they got to say so. The earth is given to the hand of the wicked. So what they say goes, so to speak.
Hmm. Con. Want me to continue
Yeah,
reading?
we can go back to the article.
Con.
Just get a couple points in the this article, and then we get some precepts.
Con. This is from nationalgeographic.org. It says the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So it says the 13th Amendment was the first amendment to the United States Constitution during the period of Reconstruction. The amendment was ratified on December 6, 1865, and ended the argument about whether slaves was legal in the United States. The amendment reads, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist
Which,
within the United States.
if I could mention too, that word it said ratify essentially means it says ratification, the action of signing or giving formal consent to a treaty, contract, or agreement, making it officially valid.
Mm,
So they
con,
pretty much brought it to pass. His tongue walking through the earth. He
right,
decreed that.
con. It says, or any place subject to their jurisdiction.
Hmm.
It says, the 13th Amendment was necessary because the Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Abraham Lincoln in January 1863 did not end slavery entirely.
Hmm. Because again, Jake is still subject to payments. You see, but then also with that, even after the time period of slavery, so to speak, from 1860 to 1865, 1865 was supposed to end chattel slavery. You see, but then they had what they call sharecropping, to where it was damn near the same thing as being enslaved because I think they was paying Jake, maybe a penny or something like that, or maybe they might have been just giving Jake food and stuff like that. So Jake couldn't really get on his feet like that, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times they try to run away, you see, but then they came with it was no longer slave patrol. I believe they came with the term it might have been some type of like deputized person it was like an overseer. They will oversee those that was sharecropping,
Mm-hmm.
or that was in sharecropping.
Con. And I believe, even in that movie, what's that movie? State of Jones. It even shows how they would institute shit like apprenticeship, right? But they would pretty much get Jake and have them sign their name to like a contract of work.
Right. I'm gonna get this too, because since you mentioned that point,
Hmm.
because that went from that, but then pursuant to the first definition that we got from the 13th Amendment, it says something about like from the schools, because that's still a form of a servitude as well, because that's essentially Esau teaching you how to just be a better slaves.
Hmm.
But it's a lot. The point slipped my mind, but you keep going.
Con. It says those enslaved in border states had not been freed.
Oh, the point that I wanted to get was because you mentioned the free state of Jones, because
Hmm.
even back in that time, you had Jake, you know, they was trying to keep it hidden from Jake that they was freed, you know.
Mm.
But you mentioned this point too. This is you know what the scripture says? The borrower is servant to the lender.
Oh yeah.
I got it right here.
Okay.
This is Mashal Yah, Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 7. It says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." You see, when you look at ultimately how Esau has set up his civilization, you got ultimately going into credit. It can be applied to credit, but then also like back in those times, like you signed up to be working at one of Esau's sharecropping plantations. Essentially, that would make one a servant. Because the lender, essentially, Esau was lending his different resources that he had, and Jake was just trying to survive because at that point, it was like, okay, like Jake was free now, and Jake, where was Jake gonna go? So
Right.
essentially, some of them Jakes went back to work for Esau, and they was essentially getting the same treatment, and essentially they was just servants to the lender, because Esau was lending out his resources.
Right. But continuing on, it says the proclamation also did not address the issue of slavery in territories that would become states in the future. Lincoln and other leaders realized amending the Constitution was the only way to officially end slavery. The 13th Amendment forever abolished slavery as an institution in all U.S. states and territories.
Which that's it. That's his play on words, you see. But we got
Hmm.
another article. Could we go to that one, Bible Shah? Because again, this specifically was applied to those that were incarcerated. You know,
Con. Talking about this one right here.
Con.
Con, it says this is from innocent or innocenceproject.org. It says how the 13th Amendment kept slavery alive, perspectives from the prison where slavery never ended.
Hmm.
There's a picture
And
of
right
Jay
there,
right there.
yep. And this is a personification of this scripture right here. I'm gonna get it real fast. This is Quahala, Ecclesiastes chapter 10. We'll get verse 5. It says, "There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, as an error which proceedeth from the ruler."
Mm,
All right. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. All right. The folly, all right. We see in America, Babylon the Great, the folly pretty much going into the foolishness. All right. Whether that be entertainment or whatever bullshit, Jake is into, but folly is set in great dignity. You got sports, football, basketball, all that stuff is very important in American society, so to speak. That's it being set in great dignity. And it says, "And the rich sit in a low place." All right, the rich will be the Israelites, sitting in a low place. Continuing on, it says, "I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth." And that's an example right there. The a servant, Esau, really, he's the basis of men. He's supposed to be in a servitude type of a state, you see. But Jake is the ones that's walking.
hmm
And we can see right there they got the gates. That's just another. version of an overseer. And
Mhm.
when you could hear it in the phonetic sound overseer, that just switches over to an officer, police officer. You see, because those they had the slave patrol back in those days, which they had the star. But then when you take that same mindset, that star switches over to a badge, someone that's deputized, or
Mhm.
a deputy sheriff. You see, a deputy sheriff. You see, but then you got somebody that's police. Police is just nothing more than polis, Polis, which that I believe that goes back to Greece. The polis. The pretty much they police. The citizens, so to speak, in a given city. That's the word for city in Greek is polis. You know.
Mm. Con. Hey, but that precept, man, that's that precept personified.
Mm-hmm.
But reading into this, it says when the 13th Amendment was ratified in 1865, slavery was formally abolished throughout the United States, except as punishment for crime. In
Mm-hmm.
reality,
So yeah, it said except as punishment for crime. You see, because even when you go into Esau's like the academies and things of that nature, this is what they teach their recruits. Whether it be a police officer, a sheriff deputy, all right, like a bounty hunter, all right, because these are the ones that's going to essentially be enforcing the law. So if they're enforcing the law, these are the ones that's going to be detaining people, all right, and arresting people. So this is what they teach. It says when the 13th Amendment was ratified, which means to be brought into action in
Mhm.
1865, it says slavery was formally abolished throughout the United States, except as a punishment for crime. So that's the caveat. So
Mhm.
whereas it again you had the chattel slavery, but then they started making laws and stuff essentially to ensnare Jake to where it went from chattel slavery to all right that you had the sharecropping, but after sharecropping, an extension of slavery was the prison system. You see, because the prison system was big business. When you go back to chattel slavery, that was big business.
Mhm. Con. It says, in reality, the policy only abolished chattel slavery.
Yeah, like pretty much the versions of chattel slavery to where it was like hardcore slavery. Because
Right.
when you take that mindset, some of the going back to what we said earlier in the video, when you take some of those same tenets, some of those same principles, Esau still used those. We just seen that in that picture, but then also like when you look at Jake, that's incarcerated. All right, you got Jake shackled up. All right, you got the ankle shackles, but then from that you got chains going from those up into the hands. So it's damn near the same thing. And if you got somebody that like um maybe they call them high risk or something like that, they'll put like a mask on them, or from that they'll put them in like a straight jacket. So essentially, going back to what you had mentioned, Yeshaya,
Hmm.
just a way of dehumanizing. And these are some of the same tactics that they got from their ideology and that Willie Lynch and the making of a slave. Because it's the same things. It's just modernized.
Right. Right. Because really, what they do is through like you mentioned the Willie Lynch letter, it was all to break the psyche of those that you want to oppress or have control over. You know,
Hmm.
and that's essentially what they're doing through those methods that they use in prisons.
Right.
But continuing on, it says the form of slavery in which a person is considered the property of another. Um, well, I guess I'll just continue finishing it off at one point. But it says our clients, especially those wrongly imprisoned in the South, spent years working in prisons for mere cents per hour, while those
Hmm.
behind prison walls profited from their work. Some call these conditions modern day slavery.
Right. Because we just mentioned the point. It was just it was from here to there. It's a
Mhm.
parallel. It's the same thing. From chattel slavery to you got sharecropping. From sharecropping, it went to 13th Amendment. Well, the 13th Amendment was really around the time of sharecropping. You see, but essentially through the 13th Amendment, that's how they legalized slavery today. Because those that's enslaved, essentially, they don't even they don't consider them to have any type of rights.
Mm. Con. Aren't your rights taken away once you reach a certain type of felony status?
Basically, yeah, that's why a lot of times, they will because remember back in those days, like they'll say like they have papers. Like your papers show what you can do, your license, all
Mm,
right, you got a passport, you see, but then once they say like once you get on Esau's paperwork, he got you. So a
mm,
lot of times, like if someone is a like a so-called felon, a lot of times they can't purchase firearms. There's certain things they can. I don't believe they can leave the country either.
right.
So that's just another way, again, furthering the affliction. You know, let's get
Con,
that. This is Yashaya Isaiah Salah. This is Yashaya Isaiah chapter 47 and verse uh verse 6. It says, "I was wroth with my people. I polluted mine inheritance." You see, because we went off. It says, "And given them into thine hand." Because essentially, Esau Edom has us in his possession, and it says, "Thou didst shew them no mercy." All right, which you know it's became easier in the physical sense. Now
mm,
he has Jake, mentally in servitude. But it says, "I was wroth with my people; I polluted mine inheritance, and given them into thine hand. Thou didst shew them no mercy." Going into these laws, you see, because there's no reason for him to institute something like that. If Esau really wanted to, he could solve the things that he's doing, but he don't want to do that. But it
right.
says, "Upon the ancient has thou verily, excuse me, upon the ancient has thou very heavily laid thy yoke." You see, so essentially, Esau, even in the time of slavery, Esau had, somewhere out there 60, 70, fucking working. Even nowadays, like when you look in the prison system, he had them in there working. They still required to do certain work. You see, but then also like when you look at out here, just on I guess in the regular sector, so to speak, if you go to Walmart, it be people that in there that's like seven. You see an older Jake 70, 80 working. That's a way of the yoke being applied. Or the putting the yoke, the placing of the yoke.
Hmm. I
But
got
yeah, we
one
can go.
for you.
You go ahead.
This is Zechariah 1 and 15. I am very sore displeased with the heathen. They are at ease. For I was but a little displeased, but they helped forward the affliction. Right. And the heathens pretty much talking about these other nations, but primarily Esau, right? Through these laws, these things put in legislation, he was able to forward that affliction. Like we mentioned, this whole society has been rigged, for Jake since the beginning. It was meant to be, your affliction. It was never meant for this place was never meant for you to get comfortable and succeed and prosper in, you know. But like I said, Esau was pretty much that vessel used to forward that affliction upon Jake.
Right.
You
I
got it.
want to get that word for affliction. It
Hmm.
says Zechariah 1 and 15. It says helped, which that word is helped. It says Izar. Then it says Rai. Yeah, you get it up there.
Con,
But it says Rai said it said to help pretty much when we go into the word for evil is Rai, you see, but then evil, we understand that Eve is a time, ill is bad, so essentially they help to push forth bad times.
mm,
Esau just made it worse.
right, right. You had the Jim Crow laws. Right after slavery. You know, and then just the whole throughout the whole period, even throughout what's it called, that civil rights time period. All the
Mhm.
affliction that they put on Jake, and it's still going now. You just had what was it like last week? This one dude get locked up and he was beaten to death by some officers. So that's still going on, man.
Right. Yeah, we can go to back to the article if you didn't have another point.
Con,
Actually, I got a couple precepts, and
con,
that'll pretty much be it if you ain't had nothing else. But could we
con.
get Deuteronomy 28 and 16?
This is the book of Deuteronomy 28 and verse 16. It reads, "Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
Because when you anywhere you look at Jake, no matter where Jake is in the world, Jake is in the inner city. When you if we was to Google right now, I'm actually Google what inner city is because it says, "Cursed shalt thou be in the city." When you look at inner city, it says the area near the center of the city. Excuse me, the area near the center of a city, especially when associated with social and economic problems. You see, and Esau does that purposely. Puts Jake in the most inconvenient part of the city. A space like near like downtown. You know, but it says associated with social and economic problems, and that's essentially where Jake is. That's why it says,
Mm.
"Cursed shalt thou be in the city." The ghettos. When you Google the definition of ghetto, it goes into the place where the Jews reside. You know, you look at the barrios. That's how you say that's town in Spanish, right, bro?
It pretty much means like hood.
Yeah, it's like the hood. That's hood for like Northern Kingdom. You see, and
Hmm.
then various different other names. For the specific neighborhoods that Jake reside. Because Jake is essentially in the inner city parts. That's why again it goes into being socially and economically having issues. But it says, "And cursed shalt thou be in the field." You see, the field is the world. You know,
Hmm.
Jake got problems everywhere. Whether you over here in America, whether you over in the UK, whether it be China or Moab land, you know,
Hmm.
Moab, don't give a fuck about Jake.
Right. Hey, you know what's that, that's a spirit because I just watched a video of a Jake over there in China, and pretty much, Jake's fluent in Chinese and everything, but hey, even while he's over there, like he was saying in his video that he didn't expect this kind of racism that he
Hmm.
got, and the treatment that he got from over there, because they don't. He was pretty much making this point in the video, but you know he's pretty much stopped by this one Moabite, asking him why is he videotaping and recording and all this and that. But they pretty much made it a big deal, and that just shows you, man. Hey, Jake, everywhere you go, you're always gonna be oppressed by your enemies, which are these heathen.
Right. So from there, could you go down to verse 64? We get 64 and 65, and then I'm gonna get Psalms the 28th chapter.
Con. This is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64. It reads, "And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other,
Right.
and
We're
there."
scattered. So like Jake essentially, it's some Jake, Israelite foreigners. They might look like the other nations.
Con. It says, "And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone."
Right. That would going into Christianity. All right, and that stone. They got the cobblestone of Islam. Jake is very prevalent in Christianity. Also, like Catholicism as well. But
Mm-hmm.
Jake is very prevalent Christianity, Catholicism. All right,
Mm-hmm.
that stone, Islam. You go to like places like Philly, New York. Predominantly Philly. They really into they tapped into Jacob. There is into that Islam and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Verse 65, "And among these nations shalt thou find no ease."
It says, "Among these nations, thou shalt find no ease." We're talking about America, specifically right now. All right, Jake not finding no ease. All right, it continually gets harder for Jake.
Mm-hmm. Con. It says, "Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest,
hmm
but Yahweh shall give thee uh Slakia, but Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind."
Right, failing because we went off. Because when we go
Mhm.
back up to at the top, it said if we was to listen to the commandments, we will be blessed. Above all people, roughly paraphrasing, you see. But it says and failing of eyes, you see, because sometimes Jake, it would be, whether it be, Jake was at like a plantation or something like that. They might have sold, Jake children. That's them failing eyes right there. Because Jake not
Mhm.
going more than likely wouldn't see that child again.
Mhm.
Or also like family and stuff like that. And it says, and sorrow of mind. Can we get that word for sorrow, Bible Kusha?
Con.
It says, da abawan. and it says fainting, penning, languishing, faintness. You scroll down some to the Hebrew Chaldean lexicon. It says a penning, wasting, languor of soul. Pretty much in a going into the. Can you get an NLT? I'm
Con.
actually get the definition for sorrow, salat. More common definition. It says a feeling of deep distress caused by loss. Again, going into how Jake, you would lose family. All right, disappointment or other misfortune suffered by oneself or others. It says sadness, unhappiness. Jake is severely unhappy. All right, in America, Babylon the Great. All right,
Hmm. Yeah, that's the reason why Jake is on alcohol and drugs, man.
right.
Like Jake is very susceptible to becoming an alcoholic or a drug addict. Just based on the fact how, you know, Jake is really trying to find rest but can't find none in this side. So what do they resort to? Trying to escape that pain.
Hmm. Verse 25 it says, or 65 it says, and there among these nations you will find no peace or place to rest, and the Lord will cause your heart to tremble, your eyesight shall fail, and your soul to despair. Pretty much again going into that that constant distress, or and ultimately Jake being in a very unhappy state, because what ultimately would give us peace and rest, all right, is this truth, But
Hmm.
we had that falling away period, all right, and then Jake essentially after that, Jake was in slavery. You see, which Jake is still in slavery until this day. You see, it's just that the Lord had mercy, all right, and a lot of us, Lord's willing, we continue. You see, but he allowed his elect, to receive of this truth, and that was a true act of compassion and mercy. You see, but 2/3 they ain't finna return.
Hmm.
But could we get Psalms 20:28 and verse 3 to 4, and that'll be it, and whatever else you had.
Con. This is the book of Psalms. Well, let me get it in the NLT. I mean KJV. Psalm 28 and verse 4. It reads,
Verse 3.
"Give." Oh, Salaki. Verse 3. It says, "Draw me not away from the wicked." Salaki. "Draw me not away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, which speak peace to their neighbors, but mischief is in their hearts."
Right, speak peace unto their neighbors, but mischief is in their hearts. When you look at what he was saying during Manifest Destiny, he'll say just what he had to say to, whether it been Gad or Reuben. He'll say what he had to say in order to gain their trust to get whatever he was trying to get. Also, like in the time period of sharecropping, all right, the 13th Amendment, pretty much Esau speak with like he speaks very very smooth, all right, but ultimately he has some type of ulterior motive in his mind. You see, because when we talk about the 13th Amendment, he understood that at that point he know what he was trying to do, because essentially it's set up to where nowadays, all right, the 13th Amendment, he has all these people enslaved. You see, but that's bringing in revenue. You know.
Mm-hmm. Con. I got one real quick.
Hmm.
This is Revelation 13 and verse 10. It reads, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints." So this is what we're waiting for. We're waiting for uh, justice. What is it that Jake pretty much goes out there and proclaims in the streets? No justice, no peace. And that's essentially what we're saying, man. There ain't gonna be no peace until justice is served, man.
Hmm.
That's what we want. We want Esau to serve the punishments that is required of him to make things right, which is going to be 1,000 years of captivity, and these heathen nations as well, right?
Hmm.
Because as we've been going into this lesson, this man is still holding us in captivity.
Right.
Even those of y'all that think they are free, you still have to go to Esau for the want of all things. You still have to ask permission if you want a license, a passport, whatever it may be. You need to go to Esau to get that permission. They're showing you that you're a slave, you're a servant, right? You're controlled, you're owned. That's where the social security is there, the birth certificate, all that. But just to add another one, This is Ezekiel 35, verse 10. It reads, "Because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas Yahweh was there." Pretty much telling Esau that, hey, the Most High saw everything, right? But it says, "Therefore, as I live, said the Most High, I will even do according to thine anger and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them. And I will make myself known amongst them when I have judged thee." Right. So just adding back, just going back to what Revelation 13 and 10 said, man. Pretty much justice is going to be served. Everything that he did, he's going. The Most High is going to do it to him twofold or tenfold, right? Like it says, according to thine anger, right? Because Jake on this side ain't really like don't have that type of hatred for Esau that we really should have, you know. But that's the reason why in the scriptures it says that the Most High is going to put His anger in us, right? So we can execute that judgment, right? And that's going back to Revelation 13 and 10, right? This is the faith and the patience of the saints, right? This is what we're waiting for. This is the day that we've been, you know, longing for. The downfall of our enemies and the rise of ours. I mean, in the rise of our kingdom, right? And I just want to get one more, and then that'll be it. This is Hebrews 4 and verse 9. It says, "There remaineth therefore a rest to the people of the Most High." See, so that's essentially what we're waiting for, that rest, right? Because Jake might think they're at rest right now, but you ain't at rest, man. You still got to wake up in the morning. You still got to, deal with your wife, your rebellious kids, or still got to go and deal with uh, 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 Esau at the job site. Still got to deal with niggas on the street. You still got to deal with all these things, right? But like it says, there there remaineth therefore a rest to the people of the Most High, and that's what's coming.
Can
You
you skip
know,
to verse 12?
Con verse 12 it says, "For the word of the Most High is quick and powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even the dividing asunder of the soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thought and the intents of the heart."
Right. So the word essentially, it's piercing Esau.
Hmm.
It's getting down. It's killing him inside. And that's ultimately why he has to do the censorship and say misinformation and stuff like that. You see, but he can do all that stuff, but ultimately, again, like we mentioned earlier, hey, that credit card bill got to be paid. Like it's gonna have to be. It's already been. The scriptures say, if we can get it real fast, Isaiah 55 and verse 10, Baba Kushah,
Hmm.
because he gonna have to pay that bill.
Con,
Verse 11,
verse
or
11.
you saw verse 10.
Con. This is Isaiah 55 and verse 10. "For as the rain cometh down and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of thy mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it."
Right. And that's that burden, the burden of Babylon, the burden of Egypt. Hey, that's what Esau Edom got to, look forward to. The Lord's word, don't go out void. You see, so it's already been prophesied. Esau's gonna have to essentially face his judgment. Ecclesiastes, 3:15, the Lord required that which is past. That
Hmm.
inquisition is being made. His Esau Edom's his rulership is being sought out. You see, it's being exposed through the Spirit. So can we get one more? Let's get Psalms
Hmm.
28 and verse 4, and that'd be it.
Con. Now, just add to your point, man. Hey, everything is set into motion.
Hmm.
Everything's already set into motion. There's nothing that Esau can do to stop this. But this is Psalms 28 and 4. It says, "Give them according to their deeds and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them after the work of their hands. Render to them their desert."
Right, render to them their dessert. A word for dessert is it should be kamawa, which means a recompense. It's a righteous recompense. That's the just desserts. Esau put them all in his movies and shit. Say yeah, just desserts. That's what you deserve. That's what Edom is going to receive. What he deserves. You see for his deeds. All right, and for the wickedness of his endeavors. All right, and the work of their hands. They're gonna receive of all that. You see, that's why this place is known as Maratayam, all right, double rebellion. You see, but for that
Mm.
double rebellion, all right, you get double bitterness, and that bitterness, all right, again, it ties back to that burden, the burden of Egypt, the burden of Babylon, all right, because that burden is that load that he has to carry. He still got to carry in the back of his mind, that he got to pay that tab, and that's what he's trying to run from. You see, but he's not gonna be able to run from.
Right, right. Salakia, brother. I got one more.
You good?
This is Isaiah 14. This is like once Esau is in the kingdom, right? This is Isaiah 14 and verse 15. It says, "Yet thou shalt be brought down to the hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? The man that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of the prisoners." And that's pretty much what we're going in, what we've been going into this whole lesson, right? How
Mm-hmm.
Esau, you know, tries to keep uh, 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 Israel pretty much in that state of captivity. He doesn't want to let us go, just like Pharaoh back in Egypt, right? He wants to hold fast onto uh, 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 the children of the Most High, pretty much like we read in Ezekiel 35th chapter, right? That these two nations are mine. That's what's in his mind, right? But in the kingdom, hey, we're gonna be looking down on this man, like, yo, is this the guy? Is this the man that did all this, right? Like, how did he have all this power,
Right.
right? Because at that time, he's gonna be brought down to his base state, to his state that he's supposed to be in. Right now, he's uplifted, but even now, in his exaltment or whatever you want to say, however you want to put it, him being in this high power, the motherfucker's a degenerate. He's base. So how much more in the kingdom whenever he's in his actual state, right? So that was pretty much it.
Can you get that in the NLT for 17?
Con. This is
It
Isaiah
says,
14.
I'll
Oh,
read it.
Salaki. Con.
Isaiah 14 and 17, it says, Is this the one who destroyed the world and made it into a wasteland? Is this the king who demolished the world's greatest cities? All right, Yasha Allah, Israel. He destroyed essentially Israel. It
Mm-hmm.
says, and had no mercy on his prisoners. No mercy. It was no mercy. All right, in the time period of the Reconstruction era for Jake, it was no mercy in sharecropping.
Mm-hmm.
Sharecropping. Excuse me. It was no mercy. All right, in that 13th Amendment, it's no mercy. All right, ultimately, and how he treats our those in the actual prison and jail systems and stuff like that. There's no mercy in that. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty much all I had though.
Con. There's another precept that just comes to mind since you mentioned that.
You go
No
ahead.
mercy. Oh, what was that precept that goes, show no mercy, something like that?
Uh, he'll show no mercy to those that show no mercy. I can't remember where it's at.
Con.
I'll search it up for you.
I got it. I got it. This is James 2 and 13. It says, For he shall have judgment without mercy that has showed no mercy, and mercy rejoices against judgment. So
Mm-hmm.
hey, the Most High ain't gonna have no mercy on Esau, showing that he had no mercy. So hey, this man ain't gonna have no mercy shown to him, right? Just like whenever Cain was pleading unto his not Cain, Esau was pleading to his father and crying, all this sobbing, all those tears. Hey, it's done, man. Hey, so same thing with Esau. Whenever he starts pleading in the kingdom, man, he ain't gonna be shown no mercy. You had that parable of Lazarus and the rich man. The rich man over here pleading for some drops of water. That's pretty much how it's going to be in the kingdom for Esau, man. No mercy, right? You done had your cake and you ate it. Now you're done. Now you're out. Now you're gonna have to pay the due, pay the tab.
Mm-hmm.
That was it, bro.
Well, hey, I don't want to Zaza, but now Paul Lord's word, that was a beautiful edification to the spirit. Wow, I don't want to Zaza, Atam Yashi, I want to Wa, which is Lord's will, you all have a good day. Well, we can go ahead and close it up by saying, Call Halayim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rochak, Dashwa. Double honor to those and apostles of great millstone that taught us his truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, up there pushing his truth with all righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, 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 lakam. Peace to you all. Shalom.
Shalom.